Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Rookie Division in the Great Outdoors Tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. So let's go. Hole number 1 and shot number 1. We're going to play in between the trees. That little gap that we do have there might look very scary, but it's not. It's actually a pretty forgiving way of playing. Use a ball with side spin 2. Now we only have side spin 1, so a Quasar would be the best ball here in my opinion. We can play with a Katana as well, as we do have then more side spin to the left. Because the trick here is to get the ball to bounce on the fairway, then in the rough in between the trees, to then roll out on the fairway afterwards. And you saw me using curl as well, and the curl is only used because I'm not having enough side spin. So use a ball with enough side spin, then you're gonna be golden. Do not forget to over adjust 20% for this approach. Very important. In this playthrough, you will see a mix of my shots and my opponent's shots, as as many of the holes here is old holes, as you cannot find you cannot find the Eagle Peak or the Greenoch point from the front tee. So there was limited ways of doing this playthrough. Happy that I'm able to do one, but please have that in mind. Once the tournament starts and we make a regular playthrough, there will be new recording for every hole, and it also will be a little bit shorter. In the end, if you do have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and also more content on golfclashtommy.com. So, second shot here, we are going to play with a long iron, and we're going to over adjust 10%. Very important, even though it might not look like it's going to be a downhill approach here, but it's very important that we actually use that. Aim for the pin using the long iron that gives you the best accuracy and the best ball guideline, because we do want as much help that we possibly can when we are going to approach this pin here from distance. So I'm aiming just at the pin, 1 bar top spin. I would say with tailwind, we don't need any top spin, any backspin. Just play the ball without spin, and that's going to come in a very nice way towards the pin. Great shot to the left will not help, and that's going to mean that we're going to miss this shot on the left side. We go to hole number 2, the first par 3 in this playthrough, and this is going to be a tricky one, especially if you're not familiar with elevation. It's very important that you understand that this shot is played downhill, and every time you play downhill, the ball is going to be affected more by the wind, and therefore we will have to add to our adjustment. In this case, we're going to play 30% extra, and that's a lot. So in this case, we do have a 4.6 mile per hour in wind, so that would be that we would be adding 1.5 extra in wind to our adjustment. So instead of playing for a 4.6 miles per hour, we would be playing for more or less a 6 miles per hour wind. And that makes a huge difference, especially if you're going to try to dial it in. I would see this one as we bounce on the fairway, get it over towards the green, taking an easy birdie. If you feel comfortable with elevation, you can mixture a little bit with the rough bump, which is going to be a good way to actually get an hole in one. So, hole number 3, we do have a par 5, and here we do need side spin and we do need distance. Not so much for the drive when it comes to distance, but for the second shot. You're gonna notice that in just a bit. Back up your adjustment a little bit. You don't need to start until like basically where we ended up with our target. The reason I say that is because we don't want to go too far, and you're gonna notice that as well a little bit later, why we don't want to go that far. 4.5 to 5 bars of topspin is perfect. We get the distance we want to, and here is where we want to put our ball. We don't want to go further, as then we're going to have the trees in our way. The last little thing with the drive is the elevation. Here as well, we do need to over adjust the drive with 20%. So you add the 20% to the wind, and then you adjust normally. So that is the easiest way to adjust for elevation, at least as a start. But the good part with knowing that it's played downhill and the ball is going to be affected by the wind is that you do know in your mind that you will have to adjust more than normal, to otherwise you're going to be too short or too long, whatever the wind is going to be. Now the second shot, and here you can see the beauty with the position we're having. We're not having the trees in our way, because if we would be going further up, then we would be having the trees in our way, and then the eagle would be in danger. So two things with this one here: power 3 ball, and then wood club with distance. So the big dog would be the better choice here than the viper, because we don't want to go with overpower or have to stretch out our adjustment to try to visualize the second bounce. That is going to be a little bit too risky, so it is very important that you pick the ball, pick the club that would be the best for this hole. Don't go short with your drive. I think that's a very valuable lesson there, as the otherwise, once again, will have to curl around the trees, and that could potentially cost you the eagle. Going into hole number 4 here, it's a par 3, and we are going to bounce over the rough and the sand, using a ball with minimum side spin 2, and I want to use 1.5 to 2 bars of topspin. I think 2 bars is a little bit too much when we do have tailwind, but once we do have a headwind, I think that's going to be the best. Bouncing over the rough and the sand here is going to make the ball to roll far to like a lot of yards towards the pin. I'm not saying that you can't play this one in different ways. There's multiple ways to play this hole, and the wind is going to decide that a lot. But this is an alternative way, which in this case is going to be played with the side spin, with top spin, also with some curl. But stay away of using too much curl, as you're otherwise going to struggle to replicate that going forward. Last thing about hole number 4 is that you do need to over adjust 10% on that shot. Hole number 5, 2 bars of topspin and also 2.5 bars side spin to the left. Reason I'm using the side spin to the left is because of the wind. I do have a crosswind left to right with some tailwind, and therefore we do need to use the side spin to the left to help ourselves out. You can obviously play with a ball that gives you more side spin, like a side spin 2 or a side spin 3 ball. Then you won't even have to use any curl like we are using there in the end. I'm playing for my ball to bounce over the rough and the sand there, to get up there to as close to the top as possible, to give myself a decent chance for the eagle. The thing is though, that here is also a course where there's multiple ways to play it. And if you do not feel comfortable going on the left side, or you maybe have a straight headwind in your face, then playing over to the right side as our opponent is doing is going to be the way to play. This way on the right is going to be though a very tough one to get to approach the pin. Look how close our opponent is there to the bunker line, and that is going to be a lot of players that's gonna get stuck there because they push it too hard. So make sure that you choose the correct route from the start, and that depends on the wind. Do not forget to over adjust the drive 10% extra. The second shot that we're going to play is not something that we do need to add anything for. We're just going to play it as it is. Use as much backspin on your long iron as possible, and if you do have a backbone or you maybe have a Saturn, that would be a better club to play with than the Goliath, as the Goliath has a very minimal amount of backspin, and in that case we are going to go long. It's going to be very, very tough to approach the pin from distance. Going over to hole number 6, and here we play with a power 3 ball, very important. And when we do have tailwind, we're going to go straight forward, trying to get ourselves over to the second fairway there over the rough. Use the driver that gives you the most distance. The extra mile here for me, it could be the Thor's hammer for another, it could be the Apocalypse for another. So very important that you choose the one with the most distance. 4.5 bar topspin is enough, as we do not want to go too far. We obviously don't want to go too short either. Max overpower to get the ball over here over the rough, and do not forget to over adjust your drive with 20%. That's super important, as you otherwise going to gamble with the rough that we do have there at the start, that we do bounce over. And if you clip the rough as our opponent's going to do, there is no It's not the end of the world, but it's not good. Because if we clip the rough, we're going to have a tough time to get the ball towards, like, approaching the pin. It's not going to be a problem getting the eagle, but it's going to be a problem approaching the pin. So, power 3 ball, 20% extra. Play with a driver that gives you the most distance. And then we're going to go over to the second shot, where we do want to go for the rough bump. Here I play with the Viper, but that's the wrong club. We do need minimum 2 bars of topspin. Here I only have 1.5, and that's going to be too little. So choose the wood club from the start that gives you 2 bars of topspin plus, so you're not finding yourself in the risk of going too short. Because as we are not having enough topspin here, we are going to go short. That's nothing that we can do anything against. The over adjustment for the second shot is going to be 10%. Do not forget about that either, as we do want to hit the spot that we're aiming for when going for the rough. Last par 3 in this playthrough is going to be hole number 7 here, a par 3 of the Eagle Peak. And here we play with the long iron. And the long iron here is going to be played before the bunker, so we actually have to not gamble, but have to risk bouncing over the bunker. Not a risk that I like to take, but something that we do need to take. 1 to 2 bars of topspin when it comes to tailwind. If we do have a crosswind or a headwind, we need to use a little bit more. One key thing here though, I would say, is to use a ball with side spin 2 minimum. Now we only have side spin 1, and you could see how close we had to adjust there to the bunker. Side spin 2, side spin 3 will make you adjust more out to the left and not endangering the rough and the sand to the right. Also, don't forget to over adjust it 10%. So, hole number 8. Here is, instead of, we want to play with power 3 balls and power 2, power 1, here we do want to play with a power 1 ball. Power 1 ball, very important. Use 3 to 4 bars of topspin. If you do have a quarterback that has 3 bars topspin or more, then the quarterback is going to be the club for you to play with. Otherwise, you're going to play with the driver that gives you minimum 3 bars of topspin. In this case, it's going to be the extra mile. And I'm aiming for the fairway before the rough and the sand. And in this case, we're going to get the ball to bounce in the rough, roll out, and we're going to over adjust it 10%. Very important with the over adjustment there, as we're otherwise going to have a problem hitting the rough. That is going to be a must eagle for us in the tournament. Hole number 9, and here we are playing with a power 3 ball. Very important, as we once again do need that for the second shot. You can play it left side, you can play it right side. If you play it left side, you need to make sure that you have more topspin than 4.5 bars like we have on the XMI level 5. I would say going with a big topper on the left would be the absolute best thing to do. Now instead, I'm aiming for the rough on the left to get the ball to bounce in the rough, roll out on the fairway, giving myself a decent chance making to the green in 2. You may be wondering why I'm not using the fairway to bounce up there to the top instead. It's because I feel I'm getting better control from the rough. The fairway on the right side is also very skinny or very thin, which means that if we just having the wrong bounce, we're going to bounce out into the rough or into the sand instead. So, in this case here, our opponent's going to play over to the left. Do not do that. All the trees that you can see on the right, obviously to the left as well, but all the trees you can see in the middle there is in play. And if we're not gaining enough distance, those trees will be in play even for the second shot, and that's going to danger the way for you of getting the eagle. So you need to think 2 steps ahead here. So if you make your drive in a very easy way, because the drive is easier playing on the left side, but you don't want to make an easy drive of the cost of not being able to reach for the green in 2 for the second shot. So then we need to play the maybe a little bit tougher drive than otherwise. So here we do have the second shot, and I would like us to play with the big dog here to give us more distance. 1.5 bar topspin is okay. aiming with as much side spin to the left possible, trying to get this ball as close to the pin as possible. But I'm looking at this shot as more as an eagle hole. I do feel that this par 5 is very tough for players playing down in rookie, especially with lower level clubs. And therefore I would see this one as purely an eagle hole. If the albatross drops, you know, huge bonus. But otherwise we're just going to see it as an eagle hole and take it for what it is. Drive 10% extra for the drive to the right, nothing to the left. The second shot is 10% extra. So this was the playthrough for Rookie Division in the Great Outdoors Tournament. And I tried to take all the information and explain it in a way that is possible for everyone to understand. Please do not hesitate to make a comment in the comment section below if you do have any question or if it was something that you did just not understand. And you can find this playthrough and all the rest of the content on the website golfclashtommy.com. Check it out there. The text guides for the Great Outdoors Tournament are out for patrons and also for subscribers on Twitch. If you do want to get them, sign up and you will get them already today. And in the end here, this is going to be a course where I see a -13 be the par score. With that mean is that I do think hole number 8 is going to be an eagle hole because it's basically played as a par 3. Then there is opportunities in other ways, but we're gonna start at looking at it as -13 for 9 holes. Then we're gonna be fine. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. I want to wish you the best of luck in the Great Outdoors Tournament.